Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Volume 3 of Shinichi Sakamoto's hashtag DRCL. As you know, if you've watched the channel at all, usually when I review a manga, I'll review the first one, and then I'll read the whole series, and if I feel like coming back to it on the last volume to comment on the whole thing, I will. But with Shinichi Sakamoto, he's one of my favorite manga artists, mangaka, and his work, The Climber, is one of my top two, top three, maybe my favorite comic of all time. I'm really glad that it's been announced that it's getting printed. So luckily, hashtag DRCL and Innocent have been doing well enough that I think Viz is going to, yeah, I think it's Viz is going to start doing The Climber. So I can quit stressing about if that's ever going to get translated. But I just love his work so much that it's hard for me to not share it and talk about it and try and turn other people onto it. I know some people don't like that he's now obviously using computers in his work. And if that's been a barrier to you, please don't let it be a barrier when The Climber comes out, because The Climber was done all with a brush. So it is all analog. But yes, Sakamoto Shinichi is someone who's using digital tools now, but I think he goes in and out of it being a little too digital looking for me. And then the longer he's been working with the tools, the more I think he's starting to realize how to use them to, like, basically prepare a plate. He's preparing a printing plate, and he's really in control of what type of textures he's using. Is he using tones? Is he using diffusion dithers? Like up here, you get diffusion dithers to get the gradient and the value. Here, he's using a dot tone. Here, he's using this really fine cross hatching where he goes back over with white and erases some out. He's basically like shading using all of these dots and line tools. And then obviously like applying those effects to some things that he's built digitally as well. But it allows him to realize these just absolutely intense visuals that must exist inside of his head. And given how powerful of an artist he is, I'm sure that if he had the time to sit here and do all this without the digital tools, he would. He strikes me as that kind of person. So one of the few people that I really like what he's doing with the digital stuff. I don't like in this story of Dracula that for some reason he's gone with Michael Jackson as Dracula, and it's just so obvious and so over the top. But the rest of it's really cool. And one of the things he's doing that I think is really smart, and I think it's extra nice that this is, I think, in the artwork in English, so it's not having to be redone for the translation, because the story is set in England. When he's using text in the piece, it will actually be in English. So that makes for a really good translation, obviously, for the English audience. But there's a lot of these things where he hides these subliminals. So here, like in the bricks on the ground, Dracula's putting out this subliminal that says, "I am your master," and that's hidden in the art. That one pops out a little easier, but there's some others that are more embedded in there. Here you get a sense of what I'm talking about with Shinichi Sakamoto's just mind for visuals, like this visual of this face squeezing through. I mean, here's another one, like Dracula on this Santa sled being led by wolves. But here you see that there's a character in a confessional, and one of the Dracula characters, I believe this is Lucy, Luke Westrinos, is like pushing the face through the holes in the confessional and then re-merging. And that visual is just so gnarly. And this drawing here is so crazy with the face coming back together, that when there's like what is obviously some kind of photograph of a doily that's been manipulated to be a diffusion dither pattern with the blur, I'm really not stressing about that, because like there's so much beautiful imagery and drawing going on here. And that's all throughout the book. You really get visual play like that all throughout. Another thing that is becoming more and more a part of Shinichi Sakamoto's style, at least with this book, is the use of those dither patterns, where he's not really working like a traditional comic artist working with line anymore. There's a lot of pages like this that really look like shaded pencils or something like that, because he's using the diffusion dither tools. It gets that grainy pencil drawing look. And that is opening up his visual vocabulary to get sequences that look very different from everything else in the book. And then because he's working digitally, there's all of these like reductive drawing patterns where you can draw with white on top or put like the little star sparkles. And you just get some type of images that I don't feel like I've seen in any comic before in terms of just how they're produced. And I think that is really, really fun to watch. Again, the strange Michael Jackson Dracula, not so much my thing. One of the interesting things about this story is there's a lot of dealing with contemporary themes. There's not so much in this volume, but you have the Lucy Luke character who is dealing with some kind of, gender ambiguity or non-binary, gender fluid character. There's characters that have been replaced, like they're all replaced by kids, and so they're dealing with stuff kids would deal with. A lot of cool stuff like that throughout the book by bringing it into the story into a children's boarding school. Here in this sequence, the children are obviously playing with a Ouija board, but it gives Shinichi some more chance to do these wild visuals where he's mapping like the Ouija board over top of things and they're communicating with it. Again, obviously using the English letter forms even in the original art. So I don't know how they translated those in the original ones, but I think that's a really visually cool sequence. And then just some more here where you see the combination of the more pencil drawing type of stuff that he's using the diffusion dithers for with the actual more like linear work that he's applying some effects to. And this image here of Lucy like rising up is so creepy to me. And then when you turn and see the actual character, that's another piece I really like there. Another one that looks like charcoal or something like that. It's cool to see an artist like this who I felt like had a very defined style pushing themselves. But yeah, then you see this right here where Lucy has become like some kind of full vampiric creature. And Shinichi Sakamoto is obviously not relying on the typical vampire imagery. He's really playing with all of the ideas and then bringing in his own vibe to it. So this gigantic, nasty, like centipede creature with these beautiful, I don't know, like maps of the galaxy as its texture that it's got on each piece of its body. All these kids like strung up on webs. I don't know. It's just such a cool looking book. And I really appreciate any artist. And that's what's so cool about The Climber is it's about an artist. It's about a climber trying to become the best climber in the world, but really you can tell it's an analogy for Shinichi trying to become a master artist. And it's cool to see someone who's actually entered what I consider masterful. They've entered that phase where they are a master and they're continuing to push and find new avenues. That's always the most encouraging thing I can see as an artist is you've already reached the tippy top as far as I'm concerned and you're pushing further, and that's going to push us all forward and further. So really I would any Shinichi Sakamoto book I'm going to talk about and I'm going to encourage everyone to buy. I get why like this one may not be for everyone aesthetically, but trust me, when The Climber comes out, you will love that book. It's a fantastic book, and please go get these ones. I think there's more to it than some people think when they initially see that there's those computer techniques in it. And also, like, fantastic writing. I'm just not covering those because this one wasn't dealing with the themes as much. So please do yourself a favor. Get yourself as much Shinichi Sakamoto work as you can get your hands on.